Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday. It's time for a Wednesday Wisdom Nugget. So, it has been put in my heart to kind of talk about mental health more. So, this segment is a mental health awareness segment, and I'm going to talk about perfectionism and people pleasing. And I do believe that with mental health and mental illness, a lot of the suppressed emotions that we have and our character traits, which are the negative ones, it can kind of build up and make things worse, or it can cause you to have some of the symptoms or chemical imbalances that are associated with certain types of mental health issues. I kind of want to talk about that or discuss that. So, I actually learned about all of this or started reading about all of these things with this wonderful book right here. This is a wonderful, wonderful book, especially if you deal with anxiety. This is the book for you to read. It has different types of questions where you can go and create a journal. Two of the things that are explored in that book that are considered roots for anxiety and certain phobias are actually perfectionism. So I am reading from this book in chapter 11, and it's literally here. It says personality styles that perpetuate anxiety, which means it makes anxiety worse. And one of them is perfectionism. And I'm just reading what perfectionism is. Perfectionism is a common cause of low self-esteem. It is critical of every effort and convinces you that nothing is ever good enough. It can also cause you to drive yourself to the point of chronic stress, exhaustion, and burnout. Every time perfectionism counsels you that you should have to or must, you tend to push yourself forward out of anxiety rather than from natural desire and inclination. The more perfectionistic you are, the more often you're likely to feel anxious. I'm going to tell my personal story. Yes, I have, and sometimes I still do deal with perfectionism. Perfectionism causes overwhelm, which turns into anxiety, which turns into anxiety attacks, which turns into panic attacks. Trying to be perfect or pretend like you don't have problems in your life, it can really send you into a mental and nervous breakdown. I never really realized that it was perfectionism until I went to counseling and therapy. That is when the light bulb went on, and I was like, you know what? This really is trying to portray myself like I'm perfect. We all have issues. We all have problems. Like, trouble is the inevitable. You're never going to escape trouble. I'm sorry to tell you. What you want to do is find more effective ways to handle trouble, but it's something that can never be escaped. Perfectionism always was, or sometimes it is, with how I'm portrayed. So sometimes I just overthink just how I look. Going into certain settings, okay, so I'm here with the church people. I'm here at church. I got to make sure that, I got the right dress on. I'm not showing too much. I don't want them judging me. And it gets to a point sometimes where you're like, who cares? People are going to judge you anyways. People are going to talk about you anyways. It's the inevitable. You have to get to a point where you're so confident in yourself. You love yourself. It doesn't even matter. And now I am learning how to just take a deep breath and say, to hell with it. In the words of my grandfather, to hell with it. I don't care anymore. The more that I'm just starting to stop caring, the better the load is. When you are seeking perfection, I think that it creates an emptiness in you. And you start running rampant in your mind, or you start just overthinking. Perfectionism definitely births overthinking. And constantly just, okay, I gotta worry about my image. I gotta think about, worry is another thing that it causes as well. None of us are perfect. And I think it also comes from some things in childhood. As I've expressed before, I have dealt with low self-esteem issues. And once you overcome low self-esteem, what does low self-esteem sometimes roll over into adulthood? low self-worth. So it's like sometimes you constantly want that reassurance that you look great, everything is good, you're doing great, but it's already there, okay? You have to tell yourself that every day. The toxic or negative character trait that is in that book, or it's briefly discussed, is people pleasing. People pleasing is basically a person that they don't know how to say no. Like their friends, their family, they depend on them for everything. They don't know how to say no. Somebody comes to them with a sob story. Somebody comes to them telling them, this happened week after week after week. Here they go, transferring their money to them. Here they go, oh, but they said this and that. But that's my brother, that's my sister, that's my blah, 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 blah. They're going all over town trying to drive to help them each and every time. And everyone around them can see that these people are using them and they can't see it. They're always blind. They have a good heart and they're always victims of people taking advantage of them. And I've never been a people pleaser. I'm sorry. I've never been a people pleaser. I've never been a person that goes over and beyond wanting acceptance from people or feeling sorry for people. That's just never been my character trait. And every time I see people with that character trait, I want to jump in their body and slap them or shake them and say, wake up. This person is using you. But people pleasing, unfortunately, it can lead to depression. It can lead to you feeling empty, and it can eventually lead to you having mental health issues. So that is something that you have to nip in the bud. When it comes to people pleasing, you have to stand up for yourself. You have to get the gift of discernment. You have to really see people for who they are and stop coming to their rescue. Because there are some people, they are codependent. No matter what you do, no matter how you help them, they depend so much on other people. They don't know how to walk on their own. They don't know how to think on their own. Take your hands off of them. And if you can't do it just cold turkey, just start gradually. Start ignoring their phone calls. Start ignoring their text messages. Start learning how to say no. Because I'm telling you, you are crutching these people. You are allowing, and a lot of these people are grown. You are allowing these grown people to take over you. What, God forbid, what happens if something happens to you? How can they carry on? How can they go on? They're not going to be able to. So for a lot of people, you have to trust God enough to pray for them and be okay. For a lot of people, it's time for you to cut the cord. It's time for you to cut off your accessibility. Sometimes it is draining for people to only call you with their issues. And then it's like when you have issues, you come to them and you're calling them. It's like, who can you go to? They're like, oh yeah, I'm busy right now. I have something to do. And you're just like, well, dang, I come to you all the time and I help you. Why can't you help me? That's exactly what it feels like, people pleasing. You're never going to satisfy people. You're never going to make them happy. You're never going to be the winner in everyone's story. It's okay. Who cares? Learn how to move forward. And most of all, learn how to set boundaries. Setting boundaries is definitely a part of letting go of people pleasing and letting go of that negative character trait. Setting boundaries involves, like I said, putting your phone on do not disturb, stop taking phone calls. You need time for yourself. Most of all, you need to check in with your mental health, because if you don't have you together, how can you help anybody else? So you have to look out for yourself. Limit your accessibility. And that is another thing that I have worked on this year. I wanted to purposely limit my accessibility and be less accessible on social media, also just in reality. Because sometimes you do have to check in with yourself. You can't be there for everyone at all times. That is what the man upstairs is for. Stay up, guys, and limit the negative character traits. Let's get rid of people pleasing and also perfectionism. God bless. Take care of yourselves. Most of all, take care of your mental health. Bye-bye.